I am very happy to be here a second Sunday as a guest, and it is a great honor to be speaking to you from this historic pulpit this Sunday morning. Thank you, Pamela and Galen, for this invitation and trust in me to speak to you. It is also thrilling to be part of a Sunday service where a world premiere of a new choral work is performed. Jane Hirschfield is a Zen poet who wrote Let Them Not Say, and she is also one of the women teachers who I invited to contribute to my book, The Hidden Lamp, and a Zen student in the lineage where I trained. So it was especially moving to me to hear this music. Many thanks to Alejandro and to the music staff and to Richard Einhorn for this extraordinary composition. Yesterday, on Saturday, 17 of us spent the day in an all-day retreat here at All Souls, exploring stories and koans for these times from the Hidden Lamp. And when I say in these times, for these times, I think you know what I mean. We know in our bones that we are in a time of careening change in so many areas: political, technological, environmental, climatological, personal, to a degree that few or none of us have been prepared for or know how to be with. This year, in August, the International Geological Congress will meet to decide if the changes that we are living through are so abrupt and intense that we have entered a new geological epoch, the Anthropocene. This term comes from the Greek word anthropo, meaning human, and scene, which is a term for a geologic epoch. The human epoch. Normally, these epochs last millions of years, and each of the transitions between one geologic time and another are marked by some kind of abrupt transition in the geological record, the rocks of the earth. For example, at the extinction of the dinosaurs, which was the end of the Cretaceous, it was defined by the presence in the sediments around the world of the metal iridium, which was the result of the meteorite that collided with the Earth. For the Anthropocene, the best candidate for such a signal are the radioactive isotopes from the atomic testing that began in the 1950s, which are detectable in sediments around the world. But of course, that is not the only signal. There's also the immense change in the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, the abrupt changes in temperature, the great extinctions, the vast amounts of plastic. And all of these began in the lifetimes of many of us here in this sanctuary this morning and online. It is a sobering thought that geologists all over the world believe that we are entering this new time, or have already entered this new time, one brought about by our own activities, visible perhaps as long as the rest of the time of this earth itself. I decided I wanted to speak to you today about spiritual practices for the Anthropocene, because I do believe that spiritual practices can help us in this time. What I will share with you today comes from both my Unitarian Universalist heritage and commitments and from Zen Buddhism. Please take whatever is useful to you in your own life. Some of you may know of the late Vietnamese peace activist and Zen monk Thich Nhat Hanh, who was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1967 by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. After the Vietnam War, when thousands of refugees were fleeing in small boats across the South China Sea, he wrote these words: "When the crowded Vietnamese refugee boats met with storms or pirates, if everyone panicked, all would be lost. But if even one person in the boat remained calm and centered, it was enough. It showed the way for everyone to survive." I am inviting you to go deeper, to learn and to practice so that you become someone who has a great capacity for being solid, calm, and without fear. Because our society needs people like you who have these qualities, and your children, our children, need people like you. So generally, I don't really believe in giving advice, because who listens to advice anyway? But I'm going to break my own rule this morning, because these are desperate times, and offer just a little bit of advice to you. 5 spiritual practices, simple spiritual practices, to help become, for all of us, perhaps a little more like that one person on the boat that helped everyone to survive. First, find Sabbath. You're already doing that, actually, by being online or being in the pews here this morning. Find a way to regularly pause, slow down, and feed your spirit. Tricia Hersey was a wonderful Black activist and bishop of NAP ministry, wrote a book called Rest as Resistance. And she reminds us that rest is a radical act in these times. And please know that when you rest, when you choose to rest, you are not turning away from the troubles of the world. In fact, you are strengthening yourself for the journey. Even a single breath can be a moment of rest and renewal. Even a cup of tea or a walk in the park. You don't have to call it meditation. No one will know. If you choose to slow down, your adrenal glands will thank you, even if no one else does. And probably the people around you will benefit as well. Second possible spiritual practice. Consider a practice of gratitude. I'm wondering if I'm hearing internal groans in the pews. I know it's become a little bit of a cliche. Oh, practice gratitude, keep a gratitude journal. But the harder and uglier things get, the more important this simple practice becomes. Yes, you have a right to happiness, to some happiness, even if things are falling apart. And the intentional practice of gratitude has been shown scientifically to increase baseline happiness, reduce pain and depression, lower stress, and improve sleep. If we had a drug that did all that without side effects, it would be a runaway bestseller. So maybe it's worth a try. And there are 1,000 ways to practice gratitude, or as Rumi said, to kneel and kiss the ground. But like most good spiritual practices, it doesn't have to be elaborate. Two of the easiest ways are savoring and awe. Savoring is to allow yourself to fully experience small comforts and pleasures. The aroma of your morning coffee, the ease of your bed after a long day. And awe is our response to something vast or amazing, something seen, heard, or witnessed. And awe can also arise from witnessing great kindness or great courage. I've had a lot of awe in my 10 days as a visitor here in your city, watching the snow fall on the city, hearing classical guitar under a bridge in Central Park and the echoes, standing in front of the massive hand-stitched women in labor at the Judy Chicago exhibit. And, of course, now 2 Sundays in a row, hearing the music in this church. You are so blessed, so extraordinarily blessed. Here's one of my favorite quotes on gratitude from the Reverend Howard Thurman, who was the founder of the first intentionally interracial church in the United States, the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples. This is from his Thanksgiving prayer, which starts with these words: "Today I make my sacraments of thanksgiving. I begin with the simple things of my days: fresh air to breathe, cool water to drink, the taste of food, the protection of houses and clothes, the comforts of home. For all these, I make an act of thanksgiving today." Third spiritual practice. And this might feel a little strange to a bunch of probably well-read UUs, but it is at the heart of Zen and incredibly helpful in uncertain times. Consider a practice of not knowing. What do I mean by that? We are so sure we know. Our thoughts about the world and what's going on can literally drive us crazy. But they are just thoughts. And when we realize this, we can act from a place of greater calm and equanimity. Thich Nhat Hanh used to ask his students to always ask themselves, "Am I sure?" For instance, perhaps like you, I am sometimes filled with dread about what may be coming our way, what it seems to be already coming our way. But the reality is, I don't know the future, and no one does. Not even the wisest pundit speaking or writing for the most prestigious publications. And apologies to any pundits in the pews. I can ask myself, am I sure? And then still act from what I believe in without being certain of the outcome. The reading that you heard earlier from Laura, from Active Hope, comes with that feeling that we can still act not knowing what the outcome will be. And I hope if you're curious about this particular practice, you'll consider coming to those 3 Sundays of exploring what it means to live a life of active hope. Fourth, remember to stay together. Remember that you are not alone. What brought me to UU ministry was witnessing and being a beneficiary of the tremendous care and love, even for strangers, that is part of UU life. What actually brought me to UU ministry was stumbling into a congregation in a new city, sad and unwell, and being embraced almost before they knew my name. Come to think of it, I think I experienced awe when that happened. There is so much power and encouragement that comes from showing up for each other, standing in a picket line, marching for peace, not alone, but together. This is one of the many reasons that I believe that progressive faith communities are going to be all the more important in the coming years, even though the pundits may disagree. Because we need each other. We can't make it through this time alone. I want to share a poem that's been important to me since my rather despairing teen years, written by the beat poet Gary Snyder in 1959. It seems very prescient, actually. It's called For the Children. The rising hills, the slopes of statistics lie before us, the steep climb of everything going up, up, as we all go down. In the next century, or the one beyond that, they say, are valleys, pastures. We can meet there in peace if we make it. To climb these coming crests, one word to you and your children: stay together, learn the flowers, go light. Stay together, learn the flowers, go light. Fifth and final potential spiritual practice for you: practice love fiercely, radically. Love is at the heart of our UU values, at the heart of the universalism in our own tradition. And we can love each other and this world, human and non-human, no matter what the future brings. My mother is 95 years old, and I know our time together is limited. Do I love her less for that? Of course not. If anything, I love her more because she is precious to me. Every day is precious to me. There's a poem by a Pacific Northwest poet, Rob Lewis, from his collection called The Silence of Vanishing Things, which says this so well. It has a very long title. Why we stand in the rain with cardboard cutouts of endangered species. The reason is we love them. Walrus, sea star, caribou, monarch, cougar, rhino. You can add your own favorite. In fact, you can pretty much add all of them now. It's a blessing, really, an absolution to stand in the rain on a commercial Monday shouting refusal. Why else are we all smiling? Our cardboard penguins, walrus, and Arctic foxes have begun to swell and sag, and the portable PA system is sputtering out. No matter, we shout louder, we laugh and chant, and even if only the rain hears, we are where we need to be. And on a lighter note, a little bonus advice from the great satirist Kurt Vonnegut. It was actually his last advice to an audience in 2007 before he died. Who knows if anyone listened? And how should we behave during this apocalypse? We should be unusually kind to one another, certainly. But we should also stop being so serious. Jokes help a lot. And get a dog if you don't already have one. So if any of these practices spoke to you, I invite you to explore them more deeply for yourself and also for this world. And to review, 5 simple practices for the Anthropocene. Pause. Remember, and that's not the dog. Pause. Remember gratitude. Practice not knowing. Stay together. Love fiercely no matter what. And don't forget to laugh now and again. Please rise, embody your spirit for hymn number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life.